other exceptions referred to in the Holy Quran. Now we will discuss the other exceptions. Some relate to the extent of the modest dress. There is another exception which relates to the number of individuals. Some have no debate and others require a bit of explanation. The phrase, quote-unquote, reveal not their adornment appears twice, and both times it is accompanied by an exception. The first time it relates to the extent of the modest dress, and that which is not necessary to cover. The second relates to people before whom it is not necessary to cover, including those that are not exceptions, such as hair, neck, chest, etc. It first says, reveal not their adornment except such as is outward. I have explained this. To cast their veils over their bosoms. We have also explained this. Again, reveal not their adornment except to their husbands. There is nothing which is obligatory to cover before a woman's husband. Quote unquote, their fathers, their sons, the sons of their husbands, their brothers' children, and their sisters' children. It is clear up to here. There is no debate about the relations mentioned. But then, 4 more relations are mentioned, and there is a discussion as to what is meant. Quote unquote, or their women, or what their right hand owns, or such men who attend to them, not having sexual desire, or children who have not yet attained knowledge of women's private parts. Does, quote unquote, or their women mean all women, or only Muslim women, or women who live in their home and serve them? The third is highly unlikely, and the possibility should not even be allowed that it be this, because it makes no sense that among all women it only refers to women who work in their house. It would mean they would need to cover before women who are not their servants, and clearly this is not so. One of the things which is certain from the beginning of Islam is that a woman is mahram to another woman. Thus, one of the first 2 possibilities remain. First, their woman refers to all women. Thus, there is no woman who is not mahram for another woman. But if it is the second one, that is Muslim women, then non-Muslim women are not mahram. Of course, this is something for which perhaps some have issued a religious edict about, but it is not this way. Some say it is forbidden for a Muslim woman to become naked before a non-Muslim woman. The reason is that it is not permitted for any woman to describe the body of another woman for her husband. This duty itself is sufficient for Muslim women, but other women do not follow this. It is either obligatory or approved for a Muslim woman not to become naked before a non-Muslim woman who may go to her own husband and describe the Muslim woman's physical qualities. At any rate, this is disapproved. It is difficult to say if it is forbidden, because the verse itself does not say directly Muslim woman, or who, quote unquote, what their right hands own is. Here, there are two possibilities. One is that female slaves are referred to. That is, it is not necessary for women to cover themselves from their female slaves, or that it is not necessary for women to cover themselves from their slaves, even if it be a male. This would mean that a male slave is mahram. Of course, this should not seem strange. If this were to be considered strange, stranger than this is that it is absolutely not obligatory for female slaves. That is, a female slave does not need to cover her head before anyone, her master or anyone else. Here, the verse refers to a woman and her own male slaves. If a woman has a male slave, is it obligatory for her to relate to him as a mahram or a non-mahram? This is one of those places where the traditions and the external form of the verse dictates that it is not obligatory to cover. But the religious ethics lack harmony in this area. We say external form of the verse because it is very difficult to consider female slaves in this verse. What about the female slaves of others? Her husband's female slaves? Others? What about women who are not female slaves? No. We could say other women are included in their woman. If we allow that it be related to free women, the meaning would be that among female slaves, only her own female slaves are mahram. See where this would lead. Female slaves are mahram for men, but a free woman has to cover herself from these very slave women? It is clear that this is not so. The verse means both male and female slaves. The reason is clear. Since the male slaves work inside the house, and covering before them would cause great difficulty, they are mahram. There are a great many traditions to this effect. Quote unquote, or suck men as attend to them, not having sexual desire. Are men who have no designs on women, men who are impotent. It is like mentally retarded individuals who do not distinguish these things. Another possibility has been given by commentators. Some have said those who have no physical needs for women include the eunuchs, and they are mahram. There are many traditions to this effect. They were allowed within the harems and were considered as women because they had no sexual need for women. Some have said that this also includes the poverty-stricken and the needy. What was the criterion? Those who said that the mentally retarded or ill were meant was because they do not distinguish between the sexes and they do not comprehend the attractive force which exists in women. They are like children. Those who said it also includes the eunuchs, have said that the main emphasis is upon lack of sexual need. That is, the criterion is not being retarded, but rather not having the sexual need for women. Those who said it includes the needy and poverty-stricken have said those who have no physical need for women. They are like the eunuchs, or if not eunuch, they are under such circumstances that they have forgotten sexual desires. Of course, it is very unlikely that this latter group be accepted. It is clear that there are mentally ill who have no sense of discernment. The highest form would be those who become like an eunuch, quote unquote, or children who have not yet attained knowledge of women's private parts. Does this mean the children of the ages of 7 or 8 or 10? Or does it mean children who still do not have power? That is, have not reached puberty. The second has been taken by the religious jurisprudence and edicts issued accordingly. Until the time of puberty, they are mahram, and after that, they are not mahram. The conclusion of chapter 24, verse 31. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Nor let them stamp their feet so that their hidden ornament may be known. Arab women stamp their feet so that their silver or gold anklets would make sounds and things hidden would appear. They are told not to do something to draw the attention of others towards them. Thus, in women's relations with unrelated non-mahram, they should not do anything to draw attention towards themselves, whether it be in the way they walk, in the way they talk, in their perfume or cosmetics. We had mentioned collyrium, for instance. It was an exception, but it should not be so severe that it stimulates men and attracts them towards her. And all should return to God, a command from God. Remember God. Return to God. God is aware of intentions. If we consider exceptions, they are all under the condition that one's intentions be pure. Seventh lesson. Seek permission to enter on 3 occasions. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. O believers, let those your right hands own, and those of you who have not reached puberty, ask permission before they come to your presence at 3 times, before the ritual prayer of dawn, and when you put off your outer garments at noon, and after the late night prayer. 3 times of undressing for you. Outside these times, it is not wrong for you or for them to move about attending to each other. Thus does God make clear the signs for you, for God is all-knowing, all-wise. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. But when your children reach puberty, let them also ask for permission, as do those senior to them in age. Thus does God make clear His signs for you, for God is all-knowing, all-wise. Such women as are past childbearing age and have no hope of marriage, there is no blame on them if they put aside their outer garments, provided they make not a wanton display of their beauty. But it is best for them to be modest, and God is all-hearing, all-knowing. Chapter 24, verses 58 to 60. These three verses mention 2 or 3 exceptions. One of the exceptions is in the first verse, which we had previously related. Quote unquote, if you enter houses, say peace. No one has the right to enter the house of another without first announcing one's entrance and receiving permission. Even a child has no right to enter the house of his mother or sister without permission. It is only the husband who does not need to announce his arrival. Home is a place which a woman considers to be her place of retreat, and she is usually dressed in such a way that she does not want anyone but her husband to see her as such. In the past, the doors of homes were kept open, and they were not considered to be places of retreat. The places of retreat were particular only to the rooms. It can be said that the ruling which previously related to rooms now rules for a house. It is customary now to have the door or the home closed, and the woman may even consider her courtyard to be part of her place of retreat, unless others have a view into it. We have previously mentioned this ruling. There is no exception to it. Whether a son is going to his mother's house or a daughter is going to her father's house, they must receive permission to enter the part that is considered to be a retreat. We had another issue in the next verse about people who are exceptions, so that women do not need to cover before them. The amount of the modest dress that is required for people who are not mahram, quote unquote, their fathers or their women or what their right hands own or children. And then we discussed whether it meant only male slaves or included female slaves as well. We pointed out that the external form of the verse reveals those who are the exceptions. Traditions, in particular Shiite traditions, have said that they are the male servants. But the other problem is that among the Islamic scholars, perhaps there are very few people who have issued an edict saying that male slaves are mahram within the home. That is, the ruling is that it is not necessary for women to cover themselves before them because they are taken as mahram. But the external meaning of the verse is clear, and the traditions say the same. In these verses, there are other exceptions about what the right hand owns and children, because we had the exception that in the place of retreat of women, everyone except her husband must seek permission to enter. Here, 2 other groups are mentioned as exceptions to this rule, other than at the special times mentioned in the Holy Quran. First is what their right hands own, and second are children before they reach puberty. Now, as to what their right hands own, let no one think that because they are no longer any slaves, there is no need to discuss this. No, we do not want to mention a duty of a slave here, but Islamic precepts in regard to slaves should be understood, and if a person wants to reason from the verse itself, he can expand this ruling to include other than slaves. As we pointed out, the verse said, "No one has the right to enter the home of another without first announcing it, except those who are your slaves and children who have not yet reached puberty." These people are exceptions to seeking permission to enter a woman's retreat, unless it occurs at the 3 special times mentioned. The 3 times mentioned are times when a woman is most often not wearing her normal clothes. One of the 3 times is before the dawn prayer, when she has first woken up and has not yet fully dressed. They have no right to enter without announcing their entrance. Another time is the middle of the day when it is very hot